Hey, everybody. I am here with Joseph Seawolf, as it says on the screen. How's it going, Joseph?
Hey.
We have been chatting for like hours, if I'm not mistaken.
It's true.
Yeah, I was
Get
like,
two
hey,
nerds in a room in front and full of like rule books and stuff and
yeah,
just go all night, man.
yeah, it's been like a wild, let me tell you about this game and let's talk about this game. And what do you think
Yeah,
about that
totally.
game?
Have you
So,
seen this game?
yeah, what do you think about it? But we want to tell people, and you can see it on the screen there, everybody. Dungeon Dwellers Role-Playing Game. It's something that Joseph he's made. I mean, that was another thing too I dealt with. I was like, are you the creator? Are you the author? I'm like, this is yours, man. I mean, for the amount of writing that you've done in it. Um, and it was you say it's Reaper Miniatures role playing game?
Yeah,
That's what it
it's
is.
our. We're throwing our hat into that ring, that very cluttered marketplace.
And Reaper Miniatures has been around for a long time. Do you know like when they started?
Like 95.
Oh, it's funny to
Yeah.
think about that, and then you think, well, that's not too long ago. But then you start doing the math, and you're like,
Like, oh no, it's
oh
been a
no,
while.
they've done it.
Yeah, and
They've really.
we built on the foundation of heritage miniatures, which preceded it by like 20, 30 years.
Oh, wow, that's
Yeah,
that's awesome,
that's where
man.
Dungeon Dwellers comes from. Heritage models.
That's great. And so, Reaper Miniatures getting into the role playing game. How did this project? How did you get involved in it? How did it come to be? And then, uh, like, what was the like? What started it all?
Um, it came out of our. We've got these wonderful miniatures. Let's we've got the toys. Let's give somebody a game. You know. What really happened was is that I was a freelancer for them for a long time. So circa 95, 96, I called Ron Hawkins because Reaper has always been very accessible. And so I just out of the blue called him up and I got their creative director on the horn. We talked, and he liked my previous offerings from other companies. I've done a little freelancing for a couple other companies here and there, um, including a company you may have heard of called TSR. And I
Shocked me.
and I was very lucky to have gotten an opportunity um, to play in Ed Greenwood's garden, and Stephen Shen's garden and Julia Martin's garden and David Wise. They were very kind and provided a tremendous amount of guidance and were very kind and just the snot nosed know nothing. And they were and that's how I got Skullport. And so
Oh,
um, my boss loved that. Ron really liked Skullport, and so we started messing around. And this is in the 3DX, the D&D 3X era, and we were working on some setting material because they had the Dark Heaven Legends Apocalypse. Dark Heaven Apocalypse was their war game, and they had a little bit of a setting in there, and they wanted a little bit more presence, and so we started playing with third edition, and then 3.5 came along, and I was kind of doing it very part time, and they didn't have a lot of effort to put into it either, and so like 15 years goes by, 20 years goes by, and we've produced little snippets here and there, and we've gone to ReaperCon and we've run games using Savage Worlds and Pathfinder and Ubiquity and so I was kind of at that 20-year mark where I was just like, there's really a lot of options available to us, and we really should do something with this or just abandon the endeavor completely.
mm,
And so I wouldn't say it was an ultimatum, but it was kind of an ultimatum where it was
right.
like, you know, and I was at a turning point in my career testing video games. And I was like, well, it's either I make a choice and go deeper into that and I disappear from tabletop for a while, or we fully commit and we devote a lot of resources to making this happen. So Ed Pugh, and it was very kind. He was the president of Reaper Miniatures at the time. You know, we sat down with him and explained the vision, talked about what we want to achieve, things we don't want to do, things we do want to do, and and he greenlit it. He had faith. He very kindly, that very lovely man, gave us the green light. And unfortunately, Edison's passed.
Mm.
And But we have since pushed forward, and we've gotten this beast across the finish line finally. Kickstarter was modestly successful. This was, as I said, this is built on the name of Dungeon Dwellers, which was the product line of Old Heritage models, and they had these amazing paint and play sets, which was, some miniatures, some paints, a brush, and a game system.
Mm.
And my boss and I, when we first sat down, we didn't want to just sell more players' handbooks for Wizards of the Coast. No offense, but we didn't want to do that. We wanted our own player's handbook. We wanted our own. We wanted to take the game in some new directions. We knew we wanted it to be like 85% familiar, but that extra 15 or 20% was going to be distinct, not unrecognizable, but specific to our world. And so Reaper was very kind and let me explore a number of options. And out of that came Dungeon Dwellers, and the
Okay.
fans have been very, very open to it. And we've taken that game system, that venerable D20 game system, and I think we've polished it up pretty nice. I'm very. This is the edition I would have given my 12-year-old self a million years ago, and I couldn't be prouder of how things have turned out.
That's awesome. That's a great story. Yeah. I've talked to you about it, and we're going to be showing we're going to go through some of the PDFs here. So it's, the Kickstarter was successful, and you've got 3 core books, and it's kind of what we know, with a player's book, game master, and a monster book. And to me, whenever I started looking at it, I was, I know, we got in contact with each other, and I think, you sent me the PDFs. I started looking through it, and then I was like immediately writing back to you, and I was like, "You wrote all this?" And I that's the thing that has. It's honestly, it's been shocking to me. It's just been shocking because this is a absolutely just titan of a job that you've done here. Like the amount of writing, everything that's in there. This is a fully fleshed out game up there, in my opinion, with 5th edition and Pathfinder. This is not many products that we see nowadays where it's, we're trying to do something smaller. We're trying to get something that's very, doesn't have much meat to it. It can't go that far. It's cutting. I wouldn't say cutting corners, but it's trying to do something that's not the full package. And so when I saw these, that's when I was like, whoa, this is just a massive amount of work and everything you need that these games that have already been around for a long time, it's like another one. It's right, to me, it's like right there amongst those two. So was that always the game plan, like to make 3 books and just we're going for it?
It's funny is that we initially pitched um, the Moldve Cook basic, little 64-page thing, maybe 96 of those, right?
Mm.
But the more the more that was asked of me, the more we added to stuff. And I mentioned this to you is that like the initial write ups of like monsters were more like what you'd see in Old School Essentials or Shadow Dark,
Mhm.
where it's like a reptilian horror standing 10 feet tall and dripping slime,
Yeah.
and then stat block. And that was what we initially were conceiving, but my boss didn't like it. He felt that the descriptions were too choppy and vague and not interesting. And so I was just like, as a knee jerk reaction, I was like, oh, yeah. And I cranked out a 2-page, like a nearly 2-page blurb. And I can't even remember what the monster was, but I was just like, here, chew on that. And it was like, here's what it looks like. Here's what it does. Here are its mechanics. Here's its reproductive, ecological information, reproduction. This is what it does. Here's variants. And here's a 2 full-page write up of every single type of creature in the core rulebook or in the core Denizens book. And he was like, yeah, oh crap, our monster book is going to be huge. And when it was initially laid out and we were like looking at it, we were like, okay, now don't forget we have to increase the page count by another 30% to account for art. It's like, oh crap, that's like 200 plus pages.
Right.
Well, once we started messing around with that, we were already thinking about like I only wanted to go to levels 1 through 3, but I wanted to follow it with like an expansion book that was like levels 4 through 6, and then 7 through 9, you know, and then add new classes, add new folk, all that stuff, add all the goodies to it. the thing is that there was immediate pushback. Well, what are we going to do with levels 1 through 3? I was like, well, why do you have to rush to level 20? Like, why do I have to present 100 levels for you to feel like this is a complete role playing game? Well, that was one of those things that we listened. We were like, okay, well, we'll do 10 levels, but those 10 levels are going to be pretty brutal. You know, a 10th level game. Other games, you know, kind of sort of the difficulty curve kind of steeply drops off because the players as a unit overpower the game master's ability to challenge them. So that was one of the other pillars that we were putting together is we kind of figured out what we wanted to do, what we didn't want to do. And as a result, we ended up shipping 10 levels. And then that required a lot more magic. And the player's guide got blown out to the horizon. And keep in mind, we only have 2 spellcasting classes in the core material right now.
Mm-hmm.
So if you add Paladin, Ranger, you know, Druid, Sorcerer, whatever, that radically increases the amount of magic you need to jam into that book. So we stuck to the initial 4 classes, 4 folk, very broad strokes, and knowing full well that we're going to be adding to all of that in a player expansion or a series of player expansions. So, yeah, we were not planning on a 300 plus, you know, a nearly 300 page game master book. But once you worked in my 40 years of game mastering advice, and then a massive amount of magic items and, you know, lots of charts and little tables and stuff, that got blown out pretty. Plus the optional rules, there's a lot of optional stuff in there. Those books got pretty hefty, so we initially shied away. We wanted modest, and you know, before you know it, big old hardcover books.
Yeah, it gets blown up in size there, and I like that y'all went with the 4 classes. I think that's smart, and it definitely. And I'm just kind of scrolling through here some of the pages, just so people can see.
Good, cool picture of our official Dungeon Dwellers Roleplaying dice.
There you go. You gotta definitely let them know about that. We all love dice.
They kind of match nice, don't they?
No, they do.
Nice kind of lurid green color.
I like that. That's definitely one I would pick up. I like dice I can easily see.
Oh, yeah.
If you need me to go back, I think you've got control of it too. So, this is interesting, and I've been talking to you about what you have accomplished in this game, and it's wild because it's like there's stuff like you talked about very familiar, and then all of a sudden there's some new stuff in there that kind of makes it unique. And I like the fact that there's familiar. So I'm not completely learning a completely different system, even though I do like doing that. This is, you know, that's easy. I don't have to, but then now I can focus on some of the new stuff. So if you can, I know there's some parts that I've told you about that I really like. We'll spotlight that when we get to them. But if you were to say, hey, how does this differ from these other games? What would you say?
Okay, so the miniatures are important. So whereas other games have been like, let's go narrativist, nothing wrong with that. I want to be clear. I own plenty of narrativist RPGs. The toys are important. Facing is important. Shield, important. We want a tactical experience because we want your choices to matter. So when you go, nobody goes defensive in 5e. Almost nobody. Why would I burn my turn for an extra?
Right.
For, you know. So in our game, it's more important because it's really easy to hit. So we give you a couple of defensive options beyond, you know, range and cover. Mm-hmm. Another thing we do is we have you roll initiative every round. Now, everyone has their opinions about this, sure. And you know, I encourage everyone to do what feels right. You know, it's your game. I'm not going to police your game. You run it how you want, and I give you lots of options in the Game Master's book. But in our game, your weapon gives you a die type. You roll that die type. High roll gets to go first. You do Game Master does a countdown, fastest stuff to slowest stuff, right? And I don't care what you've seen on the internet. Wielding a polearm is not as fast as wielding a dagger.
No way.
And but there's also weapon length. Weapon length is somewhat of a factor. So there's those weapon choices are more about circumstances, because a pole arm is useless in the tunnel. Um, they're more about circumstances and also about what you want to achieve. Because weapons have traits. Because there's some weapons that bypass armor. There are some weapons that are great for entangling. Um, so you pick the weapon beyond. This one causes the most amount. I'm taking great sword because it's max. It does 2d6 damage. So there's more to it than that. So those choices are important to you. Armor is very encumbering if you're not trained in its use, and if you're trying to climb a wall, it's very encumbering. And if you fall in the water, you will drown. Um,
Makes
and
sense.
no swimming in full plate. Sorry, it's not
Can't
possible.
do that.
You can tread water for a very short amount of time.
It's kind of like swimming.
Yeah, kind of, I guess. The other thing is that we have a spell point system.
Great.
We have taken the D&D classic Vancian system, which is near and dear to my heart.
Mm-hmm.
We have taken it to brass tacks. We've taken it right down to its foundation and said, how can we make this better? And others have attempted a spell point system, but it's never worked well because they stuck to the same spell descriptions. And that's where the fall down occurs. Everybody knows Fireball is overpowered. If you use the systems in the Dungeon Master's Guide to create the Fireball spell, you will fall short. So what I did was I said, well, where is it broken? What are the key elements of the spell? And that's what I did with all the magics up to level 10 and beyond. And yes, we have level 20 spells in our game because the caster level versus spell level has been this most talked about disconnect for the last 40 years.
Okay.
I'm 5th level. Does that mean I can cast 5th level spells? No, Shecky, you can only cast 3rd level.
What?
I don't. Why? Well, because of the way that it's structured. Well, why is it structured like that? Okay, so forget about that. Fireball is a 5th level spell, but as presented, it's a little powerful. So I knocked the damage down a little bit, and now it's a 4th level spell. And now I have the ability to fine tune magic based upon caster level as opposed to spell level. And if everything is powered by spell points, so you get a handful of spell points every level. There's an option to add your spellcasting attribute bonus into it for an extra few spell points. And so you now have a fair amount of power, and you can modify all aspects of the spell. Range, area of effect, number of targets, the actual effect, how much damage or how much healing it does, whatever. And a lot of spells got folded in together. So like instead of having 4 spells covering resurrection, it's only 1.
Yeah.
So now it only occupies 1 of your prepared slots, which I borrowed from 5e. So you have a spellcaster has a tremendous amount of ability to tinker with what their spell does, and that's probably one of the biggest changes to our game. There are saving throws, there are rolling dice for damage or healing or whatever, but you have this great resource. You have this very player focus that isn't just poof. Magic feels a little exotic now and again. I wanted to put in spellcasting rolls, and they're sort of in there with regards to concentration checks if you get popped while you're trying to cast a spell.
Right.
Which doesn't happen very often, to be honest.
No.
But the spells requiring concentration, that's effectively a caster check, right? I mean, that's what that is.
Right.
So it's in there. But you don't have players failing to cast like a magic missile unless there's some really crazy circumstances. Like they're taking continuous damage or something that would cause them to get distracted. So those are the big things. Those are the 15% special sauce that makes our game really different. What's really cool about that spell point system is I show you the math of how I arrived at all that information. And then I adjusted the level by 1 point up or down a little bit. And that's just the designer, putting his thumb on the scale a little bit.
Yeah.
But you can convert any spell from 5e into our game really easily, or even OSR or an OSR spell. and so it's really easy to bolt on. It's like a big pile of Legos. You can just snap on or snap parts off that you don't like. You don't want to roll for initiative every round? Fine, ignore it.
Yeah.
Do what you do. It's fine by me.
Right.
Um, but if you want to snap this stuff onto your other games, do it. I mean, I ran 5e for quite a while. I rolled every round for initiative, and I
Yeah.
abandoned the D20 early. I went right to a D8.
Oh wow. I like that. It reminds me of D10 for second edition.
Exactly. Well, what we initially played around with was, and this is actually how it works in our game: is slow weapons are D4s, average weapons are D6 or D8s, and really fast weapons are D12s.
Okay.
And in general, to be fast, you have to wield a light weapon in both hands, or a really light weapon like a dagger or a knife.
Yeah.
Now, a rapier also, even though it's a medium-sized weapon, is unusually quick. One of its traits is it's a little faster than it should be.
Yeah. Should be quick.
Yeah, it should be quick, right? But as I mentioned in the Game Master's book, you compare a rapier to a longsword, there's a good chance that rapier is going to get shattered.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So when you one of the things in the Game Master's book that I put, or it's in the player's guide, is maneuvers, and it's an optional rule. But maneuvers are all the things you wanted to do in 3X, but because of attacks of opportunity, you didn't do because there was a punishment.
Gotcha.
So in our game, we call them maneuvers, and you can, instead of taking your action, unless you use the option rule, instead of taking your action to hurt somebody, you trip them, you snag them, you disarm them, you grapple them, and there's very simple subsystems built into the system that's all built off of the same fighting ability plus an ability score mod, and you can do that cool stuff.
Yeah,
And the only penalty is if you fail, there's a free swing that comes in at you.
That's cool.
Yeah, but only if you fail. If you succeed in tripping the guy, he doesn't get a free attack against you. He's on the ground now. And now here's where the really cool special sauce is. If you don't move in the turn in which you want to do a maneuver, you don't lose your action. So you can literally, once you're in base to base, and this happens in every D&D game, you go base to base, and then you trade blows until you run out of hit points, right?
Yeah.
You don't move around. You don't do anything cool.
Not really.
In our game, once you're in base to base, you're not doing any more movement. Now what happens to that movement? You turn it into a maneuver. I focused to get a bonus on my attack roll. I parry a little bit. I get a bonus to my defensive stuff. I disarm you before I hit you. You effectively get you get a minor action and a major action that way. And you don't lose that movement. It just gets converted to a cool cinematic something.
That's smart. I like that. Yeah.
It's really fun, and it's super tactical. When you attack someone from the flank or from behind, you get bonuses. When you have allies adjacent to you, and you might occasionally get free pushbacks. That's another great maneuver. Is you can back enemies into corners or up against pillars, so they have less defensive options. The game rewards you for all that. And I wanted that. I'm a simulationist to some degree at heart. I think that certain weapons should be beneficial under certain circumstances. I read a lot of Conan as a kid, and Conan just go, battle axe causes the most damage. I'm going to use a battle axe. He's like, no, I'm going to be fighting Brythunians and scale mail. I'm going to go with my pick. I'm going to go with my pick hammer.
Yeah,
because it goes right through their
hammer. Yeah, that armor. Yeah,
and so or I'm going to be fighting this other group of people. I'm going to go with a blade because they don't wear armor. It'll draw blood. So I think those meaningful choices are a major element of Dungeon Dwellers, as opposed to just that one causes the most damage. That's most effective.
D8. The longsword does a D8, and let's go with the longsword.
And yeah. Well, you can wield it in two hands though, because it's versatile. Almost every weapon in the game that could be versatile is now versatile, which means you can wield it in two hands to increase its speed and the damage output.
That's really cool.
It's interesting because the math kind of sort of was very convoluted to figure out which angle to hit it from and to stay consistent.
Gotcha. Now a lot of work obviously went into this, and I think that's the thing. Is like I've been flipping through the pages. There's stuff I've talked to you about that I thought was really impressive. Like just the section you may go back and look at it. I showed the thieves tools section. It's just so it's so full, and I was like, my goodness, like this is so thorough. And this is a project that in another company, another place making a game, this would have been a huge amount of people working on this. And so that's where I'm so, and I feel like that's where the kind of too many things sometimes come into play. And so since this is your vision, this is your work, there's a cohesion here, of design philosophy, of what you want to see, what you want the rules to be, what you think rules should be, and then giving you the ability to flesh out something more, like the backpack section, which I told you I thought was very cool. And again, like the thieves, the thief tools. That it was a thing where I was like, this is someone that has just got the ability to just put it all out there and to add to it and make sure that it makes sense not only to you but to players, people that are reading it. And it's an impressive amount of work. And that's one thing I really want people to stress. Like, this is all Joseph's writing. This is him, and this is the first book, and we're not done yet. We're going through the spells. I've been flipping through it, and now if you could, I know you said that. So two things for you to hit on. You said there's no skills in it, and then if you could talk a little bit about the art. I know people are seeing it, but if you could talk about those.
So the lack of skills, what we haven't said is we have an ability check system.
Mm.
And one of the things that I found in earlier iterations, plus lots of other games, is when I give you a number of points or slots or whatever, you have to make really hard choices. And some games like hand wave a lot of stuff, and some games like go down, they double down on it and they go super detailed. And then you end up with characters, which is I come from I also do GURPS, and so like you end up with the Ice Age palynology problem in GURPS, and that is you have a character who's so specialized, and he's an expert at Ice Age pollen, right? I'm a master. I've got that at 17 or less, right? I'm a master at Ice Age pollen. But because of the fact that there's like 70 other biological science skills, you end up with a bunch of like, how do I buy all of that, right? So what GURPS does is they give you like a similar skill thing where you buy this one skill and you get these other skills, like 3 or 4 other skills at different ratings.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. So what I did is I said, okay, look, inspired by this game called Paradigm, which is an OSR retro clone. What they said was, it all comes down to what the player wants on their character sheet. And for decades, we played AD&D without a skill system. Mm-hmm. And then along came non-weapon proficiencies in the Dungeoneer Survival Guide and Wilderness Survival Guide. And then later on, they were added in as an optional thing. And then 3X added skill points, with ranks and stuff. Okay, so it was all just a bad fit for D&D and Dungeon Dwellers. And so I started thinking about, like, well, what did Paradigm do well? And they said, well, there's no skill list. The player chooses, as they build their character and as they advance their character, what is on that sheet, what they're good at. Is the character... Sorry, my lighting is all blown out.
No, you're good.
I'm in a basement, and all of my animals, I keep exotics. All my animals are on timers.
Oh,
so all the timers. So it's nighttime. So my tarantulas, my millipedes, and my scorpions are coming out to visit. So all the lights go off.
You got it all.
I've got it all, baby.
All the creepy crawlies.
So, anyways, back to the skill list is that. So I don't artificially restrict your choices to build a well-rounded, interesting character, and also how to improve them. So the example I give to people is in D&D 3X, if you wanted to play a Mongolian wizard, for example, you grew up in the saddle. You know how to ride a horse, but you don't have a lot of skill points to spend on your character, and you want them to be a good wizard, so you don't buy riding. Every Mongolian knows how to take care of their equipment.
Right.
But you don't have enough points to put into craft skills. Every Mongolian knows how to tie a knot, but you don't have the points to put into use rope. So there's a whole bunch of skills that, because of the artificial limitations imposed upon you, you don't take those skills. You just forgot them.
Right.
If you're in the process of learning magic, you just forgot them. So I'm like, well, when was the last time a craft skill broke the game?
Yeah, true.
or use rope.
You don't have
Um,
pottery making? I didn't.
or profession, whatever. So I said, well, what if you don't have a list? What if during the course of your character creation, you go, well, based upon my background, and background is a very big, broad category of three things: it's your upbringing, it's your culture, and also your character's trade. Because in a pre industrial society, everyone's got a trade. Well, I was a pickpocket. I'm a rogue. I don't care. Okay, fine. That's fine. More than likely, your parents didn't raise you to be a pickpocket. I mean, they might
Right.
have,
Right.
but more than likely, you were potter or you were a shoemaker or something.
Taylor.
So you received some fundamental training in that. Your career, your upbringing is like your social class. So, like, were you a criminal? Were you a bondsman? Were you a freeman? Were you a slave? Um, and so that also flavors the kinds of sort of stuff you would know. Your trade says, what do you know? And then your culture also says, to some extent, what do you know? So those three things, plus your class, plus your folk, which is your race, all of those factor into a pile of opportunities to learn things. And so when you sit down and you build your character, I want to be a hunter who, when he was a teenager, his village was attacked and he participated in his first goblin hunt. So I also know goblins. I learned how to track. And we met an owlbear, so I also know how to skin animals. So you literally sit down and you write, as little or as much about that character as you want, like detailed little anecdotes and whatever, or you can keep it very general. I'm a woodsman, yada yada. And during the course of gameplay, when you're required or you choose to take an action that is outside of an attack or a saving throw, you go, well, I want to try to climb that hill. And the game master goes, well, is it interesting and therefore justifies a dice roll?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it not interesting and therefore we'll just skip it and you climb the hill? Well, if it's a dice roll situation, the game master goes, okay, now it's time for a challenge. The game master sets a difficulty. That's a number, usually 10 or better. And the player goes, well, my character grew up amongst the hill people. And so I spent a lot of time as a herder. So if you look at my character sheet, it says right here, herder. So I should know how to climb a hill.
Right.
And the game master goes, that sounds perfectly reasonable. You get to add your level in, plus your ability score modifier, plus a d20 roll. Well, what if the character was older and only spent like a summer, herding? Well, that's still valuable. You get to add your level divided by 2. And these are numbers that are on your character sheet. It's proficient, familiar, non-proficient. What if your character has never seen a sheep, never been outside of the city, has no clue how to climb a hill, and yet the hill is steep enough to justify a dice roll? Because it'll be interesting if you fail,
Right.
probably with a fall.
Yeah.
So you get to add 1/4 your level. This eliminates the incompetent 20th level character problem of 5e. I'm not bagging on 5e, I'm just saying this is the math. If you don't take ride at level 20, by level 20, you are just as incompetent at riding as you were at level 1.
Makes sense.
Whereas in Dungeon Dwellers, you've been around people who have ridden horses.
That makes sense too.
You get to add 1/4 your level. Technically, there's a 4th level of knowledge, which is unfamiliar. And that is, you grew up in a desert. You've never seen water deeper than an oasis. You are required to swim. You fall overboard. Well, you don't get to add any of your level, just your ability score modifier. But what's cool about this system is you're not artificially stuck with a crappy lack of skill because you're not the right level. In D&D and other games, you have to wait until you advance before you can gain a level in something or gain competence in something. In Dungeon Dwellers, if what you're doing is reasonable, add it to your list. My players in my Dreadmere game were hired by a guy to go out and recover elven wine from the bottom of a river. So none of them had any background in managing a boat. None of them had any knowledge of, swimming in murky water, but every time we played, every game session we played, several of the characters took an active interest in evolving their characters' talents and knacks and skill sets. And they added pilot boats, fishing,
Mm.
use nets, deep water swimming, breath holding, you know. Um, and they added that stuff as we played, and their characters grew organically.
I like that.
And I'm not artificially restricting you, because, oh, sorry, you can't use rope. Because we all know not all skills are created equal.
Right. They're not.
Perception is useful to everybody.
Right.
Craft is useful to almost nobody. Knowledge skills, if it's important, the game master will just give us the information.
Right.
So by eliminating the skill list, you effectively empower the players to tell cool background stories at the table as challenges are put before them.
I like that. That's good. And I could.
It's a long answer, I know, but
Yeah.
that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I see it. I guess it's like a thing where we kind of get baked into what we already know. Like you said about like 20th level, and you don't know how to ride a horse, and it's like, well, okay, you've never ridden a horse, I guess so. But like then once you said, hey, you've been around people, it's kind of like, oh yeah, I have. Why I haven't watched them with these horses, and I haven't been paying attention to how they do stuff, or
Now the
help
game
them
master
with
could
them.
say, well, maybe you're like an Aztec, you've never seen a horse before, you
Right.
know. And if that's the case, then you're unfamiliar. You don't get to add any level to it. But here's the thing: within the first couple days of riding with a group of your friends, you're now non-proficient, and by the time you reach the dungeon or the nearest town, you're probably familiar.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
you know,
Yeah,
and
organic skill system.
yeah, and you don't have to keep them. You don't have to artificially distribute points because it's just rough. Like some
Right.
game systems have like hundreds of skills, and
Yeah.
you always come up short.
Or you don't get very many at all. Like I remember I
No,
played a sorcerer in 3rd edition, I think it was.
2+8
Pathfinder,
mod.
and I just kept putting it into bluff. Like I had bluff as a
Yeah,
skill, and I just was like, I put my points, I guess, still in the
maybe a
bluff.
little knowledge arcane, so you knew about incoming spells.
Yeah,
Maybe
but like,
about golems.
but it's
Eh,
like if they give them to you, you see a way to exploit your character, and you're like, you know what? I'll just keep putting them in the bluff, and I'm gonna try to bluff everything.
and
'Cause
you
I
take
know I'm gonna
take
bluff.
take one level of rogue, and you get 1,000,000 points.
Yeah, it's true.
And
Yeah.
there were a lot of people there were a lot of guys that I was playing with that were saying, "Well, I just take one level of rogue at level 1, and then then I actually add other skills to my character that I want.
Yeah.
I added a new character class. I'm like, I ultimately want to be a paladin, so I'll just start off with one level of rogue. I get a ton of skills that I buy into my paladin type
Yeah.
skills, and then I take my one level of paladin, or
Mhm.
then I start adding levels of paladin.
It's like a variety pack of like gum or something, or like
Yeah,
chips, potato chips. And you're like, okay, well, I like barbecue, but I also like this one too. So sour cream and
yeah.
onion. So I'll just take one of all those. And
Why
now,
are sorcerers, fighters, and wizards so stupid?
yeah,
I don't get it.
yeah,
Well,
yeah, study.
yeah, because I mean, like even an average level rogue at level 1 and 3x had 8+it mod. So if you had a 0 times 4, you had like 32 skill points.
That's a
Whereas
lot.
a wizard, the smartest guy in the group, had 2+it mod. So
Yeah,
he'd have at most as 2 plus 4 is 6 times 4 is 24.
I
You
get it, man.
know,
I
it's
like what you've done.
crazy.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
what you've done there. Um, and
And
then
as a
talk
game
about.
master, I don't have to write. I don't have to spend skill points
I
with
know.
creating monsters and
Oh,
stuff.
that's true. That's good.
Yeah,
I
just
like that.
there it is.
There it is. We're looking at your game master book, and it's called the Game Master Vault, right?
Yeah,
Man, this is an impressive book, dude. I mean, like you said 40 years of running games,
yeah.
and this is very, very, very good. And there's a lot of great information here. And you said that you took a lot of inspiration from the 1st edition Dungeon Master Guide,
Yeah.
and I think that is going to really show when people get it, take a look at it. I know it's kind of going by fast here, but I think you should be very, very pleased by what you've done here, because I think a lot of times people feel like they know a lot of this stuff and they don't need that anymore. That's how it kind of is. We herald 1st edition Dungeon Master Guide, which is understandable. It's a fantastic book. But then we go, since I've got that, I can just hand wave all this other stuff. But there's a lot of great information in here, a lot of options, and a lot of just really helpful tips leading you along. I felt like all 3 books it covers a lot of stuff. It covers a lot of things that obviously has come up in your experiences as playing and being involved in this hobby. And I think that's one of the major things that I gathered out of it was just this is coming from someone who is knowledgeable. This is not a company that is saying, hey, what's popular? This is from experience. This is like an experience role-playing game, like it crafted through experience for everybody, new players, and it's got a lot of story stuff in there too. It's got a lot of setting elements in it as well. So it doesn't leave you high and dry in that regard, which I think is a great thing to do, because sometimes it's like, okay, well, where's the setting for this? Or because some people, but of course, you got people that say, I don't need a setting, I'll make my own. Well, some people they like help, and as we get the way our lives are, sometimes I don't have time to sit down and think, okay, this is going to be my world. So it's like not only were you crafting this book, but then you're also saying, you know what? And now I'm going to put in this whole story part of it with some great art. And some art's been going by, and I know I've dropped that on you too. But
we've had some really talented artists, and the art really makes the book. I mean, my text is fun and all, but what really catches your eye is that really nice art, by Izzy Talon, Collier, and Max Dunbar of comic book fame, and of course Wayne Reynolds.
Did the covers.
Many others. Yeah,
Jim Holloway.
Mm-hmm. That was a huge coup. Getting Holloway on board that's a bucket list item right there.
It really is.
It really, sadly we lost him a few years ago, but my boss hired him as a lark one day, and just he was in touch, and so he had a folder. He had a folder in his files of just Holloway art that was sitting there for years, and so we finally got a chance to jam it right into our books. It was amazing to do that.
You're in there now, pal.
I was thrilled. I was like, yes, Jim lives.
Yeah, that's a neat thing that's able to happen. Is you're getting these great legends of art and putting into yours, and I like there's a great, you said that was a Wayne Reynolds piece right there.
That's actually that's clearly it was influenced by. That is, I met him at ReaperCon. His name is, he was a very nice, understated fellow. Brian Padell did our cover for the Denizens of the Dungeon Volume 1.
Oh, okay.
So that's Brian Padell.
That's Brian. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
He's got a great technique. It looks, very much like Wayne. I think it's you got a great gambit, and then that brings up to talk about AI. So, what is the stance with AI and this? Because that's one of the hot button topics that's going on nowadays.
So, aside from the tools in like Photoshop and spell check and grammar check, no AI was used in the production of the text or the art for this product, for our products. I personally have a stance against AI use, but that's my personal opinion, not necessarily Reaper's. But we wanted this to be as artisanal, gluten-free, free range as possible. And as a result, we did not use, like I said, other than, like the typical tools and grammar check and stuff. That's it. That is
pretty standard for a long time, Yeah.
I don't think you can fault me for using, spell check.
Spell check. I don't think. People probably don't even think of that, and that's like a staple to it.
But it kind of is AI-ish, right? AI isn't really intelligent either. It's just, it's just learning algorithms. So
there's so much to say about these books here and the work that you've done into it, because it's going by, and there's so much stuff I would like to stop, and this video could literally be about 6 hours long, because there's so much to talk about. But again, I'm seeing it go by, and I'm like, this is all you. This is all your work. And I'm just, because I know it goes into it goes into these books. You know what I mean? And I've seen a bunch of them. I've been a part of some of them, and the difficulty that comes to sitting down and writing this out. And just within this, the monster that's about to show up, the difficulties of maybe, okay, what is it exactly like? It's pages and it's words, but there's so much more in depth in this that could be complicated, could have given you some issues, or what should that be like? And that takes time, that takes effort, that takes mental, straining. And you're like, what should a dire bear's ecology be like? I'm going to think about that. And then, you could really, I could really bog myself down with this. You know what I mean? I can't make decisions. I'm like, I don't know exactly. Maybe I'm going to go this way or that way. So how was the process really with this book of these monsters? Like, what's different about some of the monsters? I know you've told me, and I'm queuing you up for that, of course. But I mean, look at that. And I mean, Bugbear. Look, it's not. It is given a lot of depth, you know. But yeah, tell us
including their
about that.
trophy taking. There's a little table of bugbears keep trophies,
Yeah,
usually gruesome ones, or the gut contents of a carrion grub.
that's great.
So we approached. Okay, first of all, there are certain there's 40 years of monsters like
Mhm.
scattered across countless bestiaries, right? And it was really hard to even figure out what we were going to do in the book because we knew that this could not be a 900-page book because that would take me years to write, right? Um, so we had to trim the list down to the essentials, and it really came down to the list of the monsters that my boss and I liked the most.
Right.
Like we both loved hobgoblins and bugbears.
Yeah.
We got to put dragons in,
There they are. There
boom,
they are.
down
Yep.
here are the dragons, right?
Here they are.
Um, but there's also Reaper has a number of creatures in our world that are clearly inspired by non-OGL, non-SRD monsters,
Mhm.
and we produce miniatures of these creatures. Now, because they differ in terms of their appearance, and we're not using anybody else's art for inspiration, we can do that. So if we want to put in phase cats, we can, right? If we want to put in our own version of the eye beast, right, the Fimgrach, um, we can do that. Um, but we wanted to take all of these creatures in new and unusual directions. We wanted to provide their ecologies. Like I said, is that initially my initial write-ups for these creatures was very minimalistic.
Right.
But when I like threw the spaghetti against the wall and we got these 2-page layouts, all of a sudden a bunch of monsters and creatures in general be, became more viable.
Right.
And so we were able to expand upon them. Like, how many chicks do owlbears make? Do they have eggs? Do they give live birth? Like, do they,
Dragon
you know,
obsessions, like right there.
dragon
Dragon.
obsession? Like, my boss loves little tables and little snippets and
Yeah.
stuff of,
Yeah. It's
of
real good.
different things. And so, like, that came out of just, like, literally, I was sitting there, I was supposed to be working on something else. And I was sitting there and I was like, wouldn't it be cool if dragons had like an obsessive compulsive disorder?
Yeah.
They live so long. And so I wrote up the first maybe 20 or 30 of those entries. And I was like, we could turn this into a D20 table. But I don't want our tables to be D20. I don't want you reaching for a D8 to roll on a table. Other games do that and it drives me nuts. No, we'll make every one of the Game Master tables a D100.
Wow.
Every single Game Master table is a D100.
That's
Players
challenging.
never roll a D100. I don't even tell you in the player's guide how to roll a D100.
That's great.
I think we may have worked it in there eventually, but initially, the players would never roll it. There's
Right.
no point. So anyway, so I created all these like cool little tables and stuff, like the contents of a carrion grub stomach, because they hoover up as they kind of move through dungeons. So what's inside of their guts? So it was a matter of basically finding what was like the essence of the creature
Mhm.
and how we wanted it to function within the game. And then the mechanics, we come from a Pathfinder background,
Right.
so we know how to do math. So what is the creature's fighting ability? It's based on its hit dice. How many hit dice has it got? Well, tough monsters should have a D8 or a D10 hit die. How many? Well, compared to the average human. Well, this monster should be tougher than an average human and bigger. So the math all kind of sort of comes together. I even give you a section on creating and modifying monsters at the beginning of this book.
Mm.
And it gives you some very, in my opinion, solid ideas on how to build your own critters. How do you figure out like the saving throw for the poison? Well, here it is. It's based on its con. So there we had a lot of influences, but we took things in new directions whenever possible, like the rust louse, the classic rust monster. It's an innocuous threat that's just crap, right?
Mm.
So I made them more dangerous. I made them kind of aggressive, and they can hurt
That's
you.
nasty. That's nasty, dude.
Yeah.
You're
and
wrong
all
for
the-
that. You're wrong for that.
And all the monsters in this book are supposed to be nasty.
That's good.
Kobolds are dangerous in number, man.
Yeah.
One of the things I've being around for 40 some, 55 years as of this January. For 40 some years, I've been running games, and I've heard a lot of crazy stuff from players. And one of the most obnoxious things I heard is the dismissive tone when a monster is brought up. So I was at ground zero when I was listening to a group talking about very metagaming. They were like, "Well, there's going to be a dragon in the next adventure," and one of the players goes, "Don't worry about it. It's just a white dragon."
Hmm.
And that really upset me. To talk
Mhm.
about dragons, one of the most fearsome creatures ever, and that's in terms of how the D&D world is presented. The white dragon it's really a disservice to it.
Right.
So when I sat down and I was like, dragons are not arranged by color. Nope. Dragons are not color coded for your easy dispatch. Nope.
Yeah.
They can change that after a certain age. They can change their color and
That's
they can
cool.
change their hue, which makes them incredibly dangerous. And then as far as their behavior, chromatic versus metallic doesn't exist.
Mhm.
You run into a gold dragon, that's great. The dragon likes to be gold. Of course, he's got an evil alignment. So at best, dragons are mercurial, opinionated, haughty, aggressive, and dangerous. And even when the size, I told you this earlier, even when the size of a collie is a nightmare because it's got like 6d12 hit dice, plus
Yeah.
it's like plus 6 times its hit point, like Constitution mod. It's got like 100 hit points. It's the size of a collie.
Yeah. Don't play around.
So all the monsters are incredibly dangerous. Now, I give the game master the ability to tweak their stats. Like it's really, really easy to tweak
Right.
stats. And I encourage game masters. There should be no such thing as a stock monster.
Mhm.
For me, this book is just a starting point.
That's
I
great.
don't I don't use any stock monsters. I always tinker, and my players have run into all kinds of crazy crap. Like,
Keep them on your toes. You know.
well, the Manticore with a aurora attack, or breath weapon. I had
Mhm.
a Manticore that breathed fire. Um, I've had two-headed dragons that get into arguments.
It almost
Um,
it reminds me of like post-apocalyptic stuff that I've talked
it
about
can
in
be,
the past. Is the fact
yeah.
that in post-apocalyptic games, you're not sure of what this thing's going to do.
No,
You may
you
have a
run into
little bit of a knowledge of it, or you kind of think, but then all of a sudden it's doing something really wacky. So you're never complacent. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
There's no security. Like you run
Yeah.
into like even if you run into 5 of this monster, it always has that plus D4 extra mutations that you roll for,
Yeah.
or the
Exactly.
game master has the flexibility to
It's going to
add.
do something else. You know.
Yeah, and it's like, oh crap, that thing has de-evolution and just permanently stripped me of my radiation eyes ability that I spam whenever we get into a combat. I've lost it. It's gone.
Right. Right.
Um,
Right.
that's what's great. I love uncertainty, and that's the other thing is that we wanted to remove the guardrails. We're taking the cork off of the fork,
Uh-huh.
and dungeons are dangerous again.
That sounds good to me. I'm down for that. And a lot that's been a good philosophy, and I'm glad you've kind of put it in there. The kind of let monsters be unique. Let them stand out and be different. Don't take your guard down against them. So we're back here at the player's guide, and we want to definitely make sure we talk about the future. What is the future for this game? What is the
So
road ahead?
we haven't fulfilled yet,
Okay.
and full disclosure, we are late, and that's just the fact that there's just the two of us plus all of our
It's
artists.
it's incredible. That's incredible.
So it's crazy. Me as the writer and designer, and Ron as the guy who edited and laid out. We have had a couple people that have filled in and have done some editorial work and things like that. And then the Hills Edge players or the Hills Edge campaign guide, which is our first expansion. It's a small mini campaign, nice little. I think it's 100 pages. It's actually pretty robust. Um, and we had a couple of people that kind of pitched in some entries, but I went over everything and added a bunch to their entries.
Great.
So I'm not diminishing their contribution. I'm just saying
Right.
my fingerprints are still all over that book.
Yeah.
Um, so it was basically just me and Ron for the most part.
That's amazing.
So the future is more fit. We want to give more. We want to give players more options. We want to give players what they want, right? So they want different types of dwarves, for example, and we
Right.
have like slag dwarves, which are like half dwarf, half humanoid.
Mhm.
We have actual half dwarves, which are human plus dwarf. We do have half races, and as biodeterministic and threatening as that is to some people, um, it happens, right? And it's a design choice, just kind of how it is. But people want to play different kinds of elves. We have like 7 different kinds of elves, including 2 types of dark elf, if you can imagine that.
Cool.
And plus river elves and sea elves and wild elves, and we have a Vale elf, which is like a gray elf wood elf combination. Mm-hmm. And so there's going to be a lot of folk expansions because they're already written. I wrote them years ago.
That's great.
And lots of classics. Right now we only have the 4 classes. Mm-hmm. Cleric, fighter, wizard, and rogue. Right, and that covers a lot of ground.
Yeah.
But people want to see druids. They want paladins. They want rangers. They want monks.
Yep.
They're coming. Bards. I've got them in my games already. They're in my playtest groups. So we've had all of those. My wife loves playing a ranger. A dear friend of ours is playing a paladin. We had a friend playing a bard, but she got ripped in half.
That'll put a kibosh on that.
Yeah. She got shredded pretty bad. But the character ended up getting raised, and then she retired the character. She came back with a wizard. So they're all coming. And again, much like all the other classes, they're going to get a very serious. One of the things I did when I looked at the classes is I didn't want to give them 30 special abilities stretched out over the course of 20 levels.
Right.
I think that's a disservice. I've talked to too many people that don't know how to manage the character up to level 7. Characters are spread all over the place, and they're very unmanageable. And so what I did is I looked at all the classes and said, well, what does this class have to do? And so I gave them a modest selection of traits and abilities, class features that get better as they level. They don't get lots more, but they get what they get, and they get better at it as they level.
That's good. So
rangers and paladins are kind of the unusual. Same thing with druids, because those tend to have they're heavy class feature characters. Paladin's warhorse, and animal empathy for the rangers, and in druids wild shape.
Right.
So they're very complex. So that's why we didn't put them in the core material. Plus, I didn't want the player's guide to be this thick.
Exactly.
That's a lot of spells. It's a lot of spells. So those are also coming.
That's great.
We talked about a magic book, which I like to call the Spell Aquary, but I don't necessarily know if my boss is going to go with that. In fact, I'm almost certain he's not going to use that word. I want to call it Sparklant Spell Aquary. Sparklant being like the de facto wizard's wizard in our setting.
Okay.
And the Spell Aquary sounds like Reliquary, but it's got spell. I don't think he's going to let me get away with it.
I hope you get it.
I do too. I like the word. I think it's really funny. And it's very wizardy. Sparklant was very flamboyant that way. And so can I give you a little funky story about our spell system? Okay.
Sure.
So the spell point system came along very late. And the 4-year development cycle, it came in within the last, I don't know, year and a quarter. So within the last year and a half. So what I did was we were looking at the OGL scandal, and we were thinking, I was thinking about it. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to put up as many barriers and take away as many ability, because Wizards of the Coast gets cute again.
Right.
I wanted to remove their ability to hurt me and to hurt my beloved game. So I renamed every single spell in that book. And they tended to have Vancian names.
Right.
So like, it was, Sparklance this, and I created like maybe 12 named wizards, like my, instead of having Big B or Odaluk or Nistel or whatever, we had Sparklant and Syneptus and a whole host. And some of their names are still in there. But my boss, he went in kind of after the fact, at like the 11th hour, and changed a bunch of the names back.
Ooh.
Now I got about 60% my way, but that means I still lost 40%. I'm still a little sore about it.
Compromise.
And I'm sore about it in a good way. I mean, you make choices, right?
Yeah,
you pick your fights. You pick your battles. And I wasn't willing to die on this hill, but I did fight for a couple of the names. So instead of Magic Missile, which I think is incredibly boring, I had Fulgrim's 4-star.
Okay.
and that it was cool. It sounded cool. It added a wizard to our world. So
Yeah.
if you look at our spell names, some of them have a name next to them. So there'll be like, here's the name, and then they'll have another name next to it. So
That's
like in
cool.
parentheses in many cases.
Yeah, I know
Um,
we got spells coming up here.
yeah, yeah.
See
So
that?
like you look at desiccate, it's destroy water, right? I mean, that's,
Yeah.
you know. But this also allowed me to go through and change a lot of the spells. Desiccate's a great one because, um, as written, a number of these spells are severely hobbled in terms of function because it was too complicated to work out. And so what I did with desiccate is, can I cast it on a water elemental? And the answer is yes.
Great.
Here's the math. Here's what it does.
That's great, man.
And you can actually cast it at a higher level, and have it cause more damage to the creature.
Mhm.
It's a saving throw and stuff. So I was able to go through a lot of the spells and get rid of the arbitrariness and kind of like there's I can't remember the name of this. I think it's called Vault, something Vault. Basically, it's the secret chest spell, right? The secret chest spell, and it creates this little chest. You have to have a duplicate, and you can summon up this spell from another dimension, and then the chest appears. You can store stuff in it, and then you can dismiss it, and then the little tiny chest remains in this world, and you use that as like the garage door opener, right?
Mhm.
So, looking at the math that was in previous editions, and I looked through every edition. I looked at what OSRs were doing with these spells, and I found like an easily recognized pattern of increase of area of effect, size, range, etc. And so I standardized all that. And so Vault, taken at the higher levels, because that's one of the benefits of this, is that spells that have a limited effect, like you can only have a chest this big, right?
Right.
Well, in our version of the game, you cast it at the high enough level, it's a freaking vault.
Mm.
It's a
Yeah. It's
vault with
huge.
a vault door and
Yeah, it's
everything.
huge.
Yeah. And so you're able to extend and make lower level spells better. And people are like, well, where's your level 8th, 9th, and 10th level spells? And I was like, well, they're in there. They're like, no. The real 8th level spells, the ones you get at like level 17. I'm like, they're in there. Cast the 17th level version of Magic
Yeah.
Missile. Just look at it.
It's getting bigger and better, man.
Yeah. Um, the one thing that's a fall down, got to admit this, one thing that's a fall down is the non-combat cantrips don't get a step up in terms of what they do
Uh-huh.
based upon your level.
Gotcha.
One of the things I did do is I nerfed the combat cantrips a little bit because I
Good.
thought they were a little too useful, a little too deadly.
Yeah.
Um, and they follow one of several trends. You got to make an attack roll, or they get a saving throw. And a lot
Okay.
of the saving throws are no damage. So you hit somebody with a 4-star, or whatever,
No damage. And you
no
make your save.
damage,
Yeah, I like
you
that.
know.
Because they
And
exploit that, I think, in other games. Like
yeah.
cantrip damage.
Uh, and we really went around and around on it because we were discussing like what should cantrips do. In my opinion, was they should still be useful, and a wizard completely depleted of their spell points should have something. But they're not going to break the game at the highest levels. I think you're going to be causing like 2d8 damage or something with a cantrip. That's not going to be particularly game breaking. A level 20, you're fighting monsters.
Yeah,
They're going to
shrug that
touch you.
off.
They're just going to explode.
Yeah.
It might be more than that. I can't remember. Maybe 3d6, something like that. But it's not as high as what 5e does.
Mhm.
But I did actually extrapolate out to level 20. So it's not 5, 10, 15, then 17, then something else. No, it's 5, 10, 15, and 20.
That's cool. Gives you something to work for too.
Yeah. And you can cast the spell at the default level. I was also able to fix a bunch of the spells which were just garbage. For example, Hold Person.
Oof.
Cast it on you, you make your saving throw, and I wasted my turn.
Yeah. That's not fun.
Take a look at the wording of our spell. On the target's next turn, you get a saving throw.
Ah.
So, allows me to. Here's the scenario. I pop you with that earlier in the round, and everyone gets a free swing until you get your turn next round.
Cool.
you're screwed. um, so the spells that are pass fail in 5e are pointless, and no one takes them.
Yeah.
No point, because you're better off with a spell that's saved for half. Because at the very minimum,
You're getting something.
you're getting something, and it's a lot. Fireball at level 12, 15. Oh my god, half damage is still like 10 damage.
Yeah, you're
Still
still
10 points
wrecked.
of damage. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're still doing like 30, 40 damage.
you're wrecked.
Yeah, but
No, it makes sense. It makes sense
yeah,
what you've done.
that was one of the other design pillars when I was sitting down with the spell system. A lot of those spells are going to read exactly like that on the target's next turn.
I like that.
Now, if it's at the end of the round, yeah, I guess it's not much.
Yeah.
Because saving throws in 5e are routine to make. I come from that second edition and first edition era.
Right.
Where making saving throws
man.
hard.
And that's where the fear comes in. See, that's the thing. It lost. I think 4th edition is where it kind of showed that the saving and throws were, well, I mean, death saves too, and I know some people,
attacks.
Yeah, people have changed a lot of 5th edition, trying to make it a little more deadlier and stuff like they've seen after all these years. And it's like, that's the thing, is that there's so many creatures in 2nd edition, especially since that's the one I'm more knowledgeable about, where it's just like, you better make this save or you're done,
Centipedes. Giant centipede.
Yeah, good luck.
You fail to save, you're dead.
Yeah, it's like I died. My barbarian died from a banshee in Ravenloft, and I think I was like 12th level. I mentioned that in my Ravenloft video. I was like, "Here's my awesome barbarian. I've got him all the way up to 12th level." Banshee cry, dead. I failed my saving throw.
We don't have. I can't think of a single. I can't think of a single monster in our game that's got a vorpal attack, and that's by design, because I always felt that was really arbitrary and hard. Now, in our game, we do have fortune points. That's a big difference, and it's an option in the Game Master's book, and it's a reward from Game Master to player for playing the game correctly. So, but you showed up on time. You brought a pizza. You brought soda for the group.
You're not
you helped another player level their character. You are continuously a source of positivity at the table.
I like that.
There's a million ways you can reward good table behavior, and the reverse of that is, if you act like a doink, you argue rules, you show up late,
you're on your phone,
the Mountain Dew, you check your phone. I don't have to give you a hero point. I don't have to give you a fortune point. So while everyone else is doing okay, you're sitting on none.
You're rewarding good behavior.
I'm rewarding the good behavior. I'm not punishing you. I'm just not rewarding you. So you can spend those for a variety of functions, including re-rolls, bonuses on dice rolls, maxing damage. There's a million things. Taking initiative, supposing you roll shit for initiative, pardon my French.
No,
you roll bad, but you can seize initiative. Spend a fortune point, boom, front of the line.
I like that.
You can even interrupt somebody.
See, that's fun stuff, man. And I know some people don't care for it, but I've heard more people say they do like that stuff. They actually want that. I've not heard a lot of people say, no, don't give me some sort of cool benefit that's fun and action oriented. You know what I mean? It's like, no, usually people say it. And I think that's going to kind of segue into my next thing here is, there come a time when I was reading this where I was like, I look at stuff and I say, is this someone's house rules?
Yeah.
And I truly felt that it kind of, is it just a game with someone's house rules, or is it kind of its own thing? And that's where really my decision came to be, especially what you did with all the spells and some of those little tweaks about skills. I think you went really good over the line of, this is not just house rules. This is its own game with its really embracing its philosophy, the miniature stuff that you talked about, some of these extra little things here and there. And because I know there's some I get pushback, especially from like typical OSR games where they say, well, this is just somebody's house rules. We've got tons of these games. But I think with the scope, which I've talked about ad nauseum here in this video, is the scope at which your game is, the work that you have done, and your the other gentleman, Ron, right? Is that
Ron Hawkins?
Yeah,
who's the chief op? He's the COO at Reaper Miniatures. He's also the creative director. And my number one bromance. My number one bromance.
And y'all are just hashing this. You're working. You've done tons of work. I don't feel that. I feel that you've done just enough to really get past that point and say, you know what, this is its own thing. It's got a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of stuff that's familiar, and that's a good thing. You're playing possibly a dubious game when you say, hey, look, this is completely different, and people are like, I kind of like. I know people that literally they've gone decades and they've only played like mainstream third, fourth, fifth edition. You try to tell them another game, they talk a big game themselves about doing it, but then they never really do. And you talk to them, maybe I'll see them in a month, and I'll be like, "So what are y'all doing to now?" Well, we're back to playing Pathfinder. You know what I mean? And then 10 years from now, well, what are y'all up to? Well, we're playing fifth edition, and so it's like they're not, And I feel like this is where it's leading them down to more OSR design choices, some more smarter, possibly because a lot of people, the magic thing, Vancian magic, that's a real storm to itself. So you're breaking away from that. You're giving great game master advice, and I think it's a huge and impressive amount of work. And I hope that everybody will go check out the late backers. If you want to try to back this, go check out the Kickstarter.
You can immediately get the PDFs if you go on. If you follow the link, you can get the PDFs right now, and the PDFs are constantly being updated.
The links are going to be all down there.
And the physical books themselves, my boss, to give you some insights here, I can't give you any real dates because, quite frankly, I'm not privy to them.
Yeah, and things change.
Yeah, things change, and there's still a lot of moving parts. But the physical books will be printed very, very soon. I do know for a fact that the preprint proofs were being reviewed this week, this last weekend, and then the little green button, the little green go button that you press, and what will happen is the books will get a handful of books will be printed, and then they'll be shipped over here, and then those will be scrutinized.
Very much
those
so.
are approved, and I believe each book will only get a day of review and approval. And then we hit the big green button that tells China to start printing the mass.
Print those books.
Big box arrives.
And then the slow wait for it seemed like forever for you.
It's interesting but that's assuming we go with China. I don't. There has been talk of finding a much closer continental printer, not in the U.S., but within the North American continent potentially.
Gotcha.
And the photos forthcoming. Just so you guys know. These books are done, so those have already been replaced.
Sure. Yeah, I've had this for a little while too. This PDF, I'm certain it's been updated and everything's
it absolutely
on the go with that. I just want to kind of get back to the first page here if I can, and I dig the art all throughout it. Is there anything as we kind of wrap up here? Is there anything you'd like to just, I know you've done other interviews and Kickstarter thing, but like I feel like for me, my best videos come from the heart. So like if there's something from the heart you want to say about this game, because if someone stayed here an hour and 12 minutes already, they're probably really enjoying this. So like,
I want to say thanks to the backers and the fans. ReaperCon has been ongoing for a long time. And when we announced that we were going to do this a few years ago, the fans were very positive. And even though we are well over a year late, even though we've been providing PDFs the entire time, they've been very patient, and we really appreciate that. It has been a massive undertaking, as you very kindly pointed out.
Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable.
And but the fans have been extremely cool about it. I engage with them pretty much every day on Discord. Also, our forums are when somebody posts something on Reaper's Facebook page that directly relates, I always get involved. I'm always answering questions. I love feedback, both positive and negative.
Agreed.
To me, it's always positive. As long as you're nice.
That's great.
And so the fans have been extraordinarily cool, and I think it's neat when the fans take a more than just a casual interest. Like they had hard questions about the lack of the skill system, and I was thrilled.
Great.
Because they were challenging me to really think hard about the design choice, because it would have been really easy to create a rank system, X number of points, whatever. And more than likely that'll be in a player expansion at some point. If you can't live without
because you'll hear it from here on.
I think I've got a baker's dozen of skills already cooked up, and a system for it. And it's not as stingy. It's fairly generous.
Good.
And it's not as stingy as, say, 3X and 3.5 in Pathfinder.
Right.
But that'll be purely optional. I don't want to use the system at all. I won't. I refuse to use it. I won't even, when I write up a monster stat, like for an adventure, I will not provide I will not provide skills points.
Love it.
Because, in my opinion, just like the characters, I know what that monster should be good at.
Right.
And so if my dragon wants to intimidate, I'm going to get equal to my hit dice. You know, if the dragon's kind of a wussy but it's still kind of threatening, half its hit dice. You know,
Yeah, I
and
like
it's
it.
never threatened a person, and it's because it's a fairy dragon and it's really cute. It gets to use 1/4 of its hit dice.
I like that.
Um, and and the monsters don't have to occupy a lot of space. So, but the fans push back on it, and
Great.
that's good. They're
Yeah, it is good.
thinking, they're evaluating. But of course,
Helpful stuff.
and they were absolutely instrumental in me writing a section in the player's guide, which was not originally there, which was uh, exactly as I've described to you guys, like the process that goes into kind of how you build, character background and stuff, and how it relates to how characters function within the game. Because originally it wasn't in there. We had the combat system, the combat and movement was right in the first manuscript. But after I thought about it for a while, my boss just kept bringing up his questions. You know, they wouldn't bring them up to me; they'd bring them up to him. They'd
Sure.
run up to him and be like, "Oh." So I wrote that section, and they have gone silent. Since we launched that PDF that had
Great.
that section, they have gone utterly silent. Like,
That's
oh, okay, I
fantastic.
get it.
I get it
We get
now.
it.
Oh,
And, they,
that problem's taken care of.
and they've been really cool about stuff. I
Right.
mean, they've just been running games for I run about 21 to 28 hours of games at ReaperCon every year.
Wow.
And the tables are always full,
Great.
over full. I think I ran 33 hours at last ReaperCon.
Whoa.
Yeah,
hard.
that's a lot of hours to crack into 4 days, considering Sunday's a
Amazing.
short day.
That's a lot of time, man.
Yeah, and they're always so incredible.
You got to do the work, man. That you got to pound the pavement. You got to get the work done. You got to get out there
Yeah.
and do that. And what you were saying about it being late, honestly, I don't think that matters as much. What adds on to that, what actually makes that bad is when there's no communication.
Yeah.
So as long as there's communication and there's something that you can actually look at, I think a lot of people are understandable about. It's just kind of par for the course now when it comes to Kickstarter or any type of crowdfunding.
We have learned a lot about everything.
Sure.
Working on this, learning layout, what we love in layout, like the mechanical aspects of this does this and this is this and this and this. That is very easily learned, but learning what looks good to your eye is a completely different story.
Yeah.
And so it's been a great learning experience for everyone involved, and I'm so grateful to our artists. I'm intensely grateful to my writing partner, Ron Hawkins. I cannot say enough good things about Ed Pugh, our beloved president that we lost a few years ago, who never got to see the finished product, unfortunately.
It's a shame.
Big thanks to Dave Pugh, his brother, who's formerly the accountant and now the CEO of the company, who is running things, and and just everybody who's been part of the process. Is just from the highest levels to the players and stuff. It's very humbling to put stuff out there and have people like you reach out to me and say, "Hey, can we have you on?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll talk about my stuff.
Yeah.
Please let me."
Yeah, I know we like to talk, and I like to meet people that are excited about the hobby that I love, and what you were talking about feedback and stuff. Everybody, if you've watched all this far, I hope you've enjoyed this. I want to let you know too, if you pick up Dungeon Dwellers Roleplaying Game, leave a review wherever you bought it, wherever you can. That is only going to help Joseph and whoever else out know, hey, look, this is if you love it, let them know. If you've got something you need to, something that doesn't really work for you or whatever, we strive off of either good, bad, or whatever, just to know that you're out there and that you're involved and that maybe you like it, you don't. It's just like anything else nowadays, but we really are, I think a lot of humans in general, we need feedback. If it's not there, it falls to the wayside. And then we feel like it's not worth doing. Everything from this channel to being creative and crafting products and stuff for all of our fun. So, if you like this video, if you want to say something about it, whatever, check out his game. And my little final thing would be, I see a lot of products here. I'm getting close to 300 overview videos. And for me, I think I can't believe it's gone this far. And this was a product that all three of these books ready. I mean, this is a whole package deal. For me, I immediately reached out to him and said, dude, this is something. This is a lot of work. You have done an incredible thing here. And I truly believe that you have you have put a lot of dedication, a lot of experience. That's what this is. This is an experienced DM, game master, who has poured himself into this book, obviously, with the help of the producer, and has created something that I think can be right there toe to toe with Pathfinder 5th edition or any of the big guns that are up there with its scope, its depth, its rules, the rules changes that it's had to it, a lot of its kind of tweaks and stuff it's done, and then the setting stuff that's involved in there, or like the little things like I said about the thieves tools. I mean, it's a thorough game, and I don't see that very often because it's a huge task to do, and I think that you've met that task, and I hope nothing but success for it. I'm super excited for you to be able to get in your hands because that's going to be a sweet moment to get the actual, books in your hand. It's an incredible thing to have. So that's it. I mean, I hope that those that have stayed. I know Rick Hole stayed. Rick Hole stayed. So if there anything else you got to say, we'll go ahead and wrap it up.
I've had a great time, and it's
great,
been a wonderful ride. I get to write about dragons and dwarfs. I get to go when I go to Disney. People, you run into people. You have lunch with, sitting at adjacent tables and stuff. And
yeah,
they always ask because my wife and I are both very nerds, huge nerds, and so it's always fun to tell people what you do for a living. And it's like some people, oh, I'm an accountant, or I'm a whatever,
right.
and they're not happy.
Yeah.
And I get to write about dragons and dwarves, mutants, spies, and whatever it is I'm working on. I get to write about fanciful things, and I'm so grateful for that opportunity to do that. And the community, the gamers in large, are very cool and very welcoming, and it's nice. And they can be very sharp. It's like with criticisms and stuff, but that's okay. You just have to kind of just take it and think about what they say to you and go, well, let me think here. And so I'm so proud of what we've been able to achieve. But also, I love my hobby. I mean, I always tell people that it's weird how you find yourself into this hobby. It's that most people come into it, and I talk about this in the Game Masters book, in the intro, about how people come into it, usually through a cousin or a parent nowadays or whatever, and they're like, hey, have you seen Stranger Things?
Right.
And that's how people come into it, and that's beautiful.
Yeah.
But 40 years ago, that didn't exist. Like maybe a sibling, right, or somebody at school. I learned through a Dynamite magazine, and if I can show you this,
sure.
I actually have a framed real copy of Dynamite magazine '84 that has an article, and this was a circulated in-school magazine.
That's awesome.
And it hangs on my wall, actually above my diploma.
That's great, man.
Because this was my I think second or third grade is when I learned about it. My mom waited until I was 12. She waited a couple of years, and then the Satanic Panic and all that other stupidity.
And then it was on.
And it was and it was like, but you read this very vague article about toy soldiers and terrain and fighting dragons, and I had no idea what they were talking about, but I really wanted to do it.
There you go.
And I got other kids to do it, and now I'm doing it for a career, I guess.
It's a life. It's a life. Fighting fantasy books got me on this. Rankin and Bass Hobbit.
Rankin and Bass Hobbit, yes.
They I talked about this in other videos too. Clash of the Titans, Jason the Argonaut, Sinbad movies. All these things veered me towards this path, and I stayed on it, and I've stayed on it. I'll stay on it forever. So that's awesome, bud. It's good that you got that framed, and it's got that part of kind of like history that you can, display there. So, but this is
my nephews pointed to it like, "What's that?" And I had to tell them the story, and they kind of looked at me like I was crazy.
Yeah.
Like, well, we didn't have the internet back then.
Yeah, they're like, "Is that a video game? What is that?"
Well, I've got them playing though. I actually have designed a couple games specifically.
That's cool. Yeah, that's definitely neat.
Yeah, so they're getting it now.
They're getting it somehow. Yeah, it's gotten more popular, and that's a cool thing too. So this has been really cool, Joseph, to meet you. We've been talking for hours, and hopefully that people check out the Kickstarter. Like I said, I'll have links down below. I'll have a pinned comment with it too, and you can do the late backer thing there with the address there, and get on board this game.
The cost is nominal. Like the PDFs are dirt cheap for a bunch of PDFs. It's frighteningly cheap. And for a bunch of hardcover books, it's also really cheap.
That's great. And then again, a lot of people like miniatures. That's
Oh
another
yeah,
thing too. That you've got Reaper right there behind you. Lots of
we have a
choices
whole
there.
range of miniatures of Dungeon Dwellers miniatures that are unique and stylistically different than what you see in the rest of our Dark Heaven Legends lines.
That's great. That's really
Our,
cool.
our orcs they look like Tolkien's orcs, as
I like
opposed to
that.
the soccer hooligans of other companies. And I
I like,
like those ones too,
yeah, I
but
like them all
not in
too.
Dungeon Dwellers.
There you
No,
go.
Angus McBride
I
orcs.
love it. I love Angus McBride, man.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. One of my favorite artists. So there it is. It's been great to talk to Joseph. I hope you all have enjoyed this video. Please go check it out. See what you think about it. Look through this video, pause it at certain points, try to read some of the PDF, and then hopefully you want to get it yourself. Because I didn't show you everything in those PDFs that we were scrolling through there. But thanks a lot, Joseph. I appreciate it, everybody, and I hope you stay tuned for my next video. Later.